I've been working to change the way I speak and write, to incorporate in the manner of telling a sense of place, of not just who I am in the present, but where I'm coming from, the multiple voices within me. I am starting my TEDx talk with this bell hooks quote from the book, Yearning Race, Gender and Cultural Politics, as I will talk from my own voice, but the voice of many Black British women and their experience with hair. My name is Jade Adeyemi. I'm an art director and set designer. Today I will be talking about activism through hair, specifically black hair, within the realms of identity and art. Why hair, you may wonder? Because the designs consolidated on the head of a black woman are defined by both their heritage and environment. It is a hybrid. I will begin by recounting the heritage or history of black hair before explaining my activism in my art. Hair is something we all have. It grows out of all surfaces of our body, but yet the hair around our face shapes our face. It frames it. Specifically for black women, it frames us, our identity, and the way people interact with us. When looking specifically at the hairstyles of black women during and predating the Atlantic slave trade, it was noted that slaves often shaved different shapes into another's hair, stars and half moons. They were engraved using broken bits of glass. This highlights that even during the most oppressed times, the preservation of hair still took precedence within black culture. Moreover, the use of patterns to ornate shaved black heads is still an agricultural practice within African Caribbean communities across the world, such as the use of night ticks and Adidas stripes, and more recently Kanye West shaving the 2020 sign in his head for his presidential election, but also previous use such as the Fendi pattern engraved into his head. Cornrows predated back before the slave trade, and these braiding patterns mimicked architectural silhouettes in African buildings and textiles present in an African woman's everyday environment, typically bridges and huts. This was because the tight curls in African hair lends itself to a kind of architectural form, which is evident in Jade Ojekere's photography series based around hair designs, where you will see many distinguished structures visible. Further than this, architectural styles, cornrows, were used to identify what tribe one was from and also country. But over time during the slave trade, they became a tool for survival, providing gateways to freedom as they used these cornrow patterns to send secret messages to one another and escape routes from plantations. This shows and raises the question of form versus function, as both these were important to the survival of black women, especially as mothers would weave seeds and okra into their children's hair before potentially be separated for enslavement. This was an innovative skill that meant that they would have food and crops for themselves on the new land, especially as they didn't know whether they'd be separated from their child. Nappy hair is a connotation coined and linked to people of African and Caribbean descent since the Atlantic slave trade in the 17th century. It is the natural form which hair grows, being tightly coiled and curled, is often associated with having bad hair. Today, reclaiming the phrase through positive use, Ogilvy campaign has done this and changed the narrative around natural hair. I furthered this through my own practice and questioned how I could do this, which I have done through such things as illustrations and do-rags. Good hair was never represented by the African hairstyle that shaped the 16th and 70s Black Pride and Black Power movement, which was intertwined with the Black is Beautiful movement. The Afro shape held more of an halo-like shape. It held the debate of form versus function, as one could choose to shape their hair in this way or use it as a political platform to represent their pride, resistance, resilience, and rebellion. Nonetheless, one of the shortcomings of intersectionality is that it provides a framework for understanding oppression and not exploitation. Whereas to truly understand the Black feminist theory, you must understand the defined links between the systems of exploitation and oppression of cultural homogeny, which leaves the black woman's standard of beauty, hair, and identity to be set upon the white upper class. Black people have rewritten the shaping of this through the expressions of proud identities, such as the cultivation of art in the negritude movement, women in the Afro, and the expression of the Black Power movement. The Afro comb furthers the presentation of Black Power and Black Pride, as it evolved to incorporate the designs of the Black Fist in support of the Black Power movement. A memoir we remember today as we strike the comb through our hair. The tool of the Afro comb was simultaneously used as a tool that represented the liberation of Black people and their hairstyles in regards to their identity. Although the afro is the resilience of imperialism through its shape in both art form and maker, it was associated with cultivated style quintessentially African, but was shaped around what diasporas modelled to be Africa. It was a modern mode of survival in continuation of a proud black culture. The afro could be regarded as a tribute to the nostalgia for lost origins for past times, encompassing a pivotal turn from turning political to becoming a fashion statement. It is the rejection to the accepted social norms. Structured aesthetics of hair design remain prominent within the 21st century, exemplified through artists such as Meshack Gaba, whose wigs reflect the ancient ways of women shaping their hair, based on bridges and architectural buildings. The modern twist is that he formed complex geometric patterns with wigs based on modern buildings, which shows his playful restructure in the relationship between the Western world and African origins, interlocking the practices of ancestors with diasporas through the craft of art and shaping their identity based on part of their future. The diaspora aesthetic, coined by Stuart Hall, is read through art and design, becoming more prominent through the visual aspects of music videos. Through the music video I Did Vain, which I art directed, we are able to show that hair is a complex matter that is entangled within us, the way we are seen and defined. It can be both loving but also destructive, but to some extent it is everlasting. The hair of black women is and has always been politicised, and now we are seeing a movement of black women reclaiming their hair and identities. Hair is the coating surroundings of a person's face and attributes to their beauty. When talking hair, we must talk beauty, as black women are not recognised within many of these standards. I will be discussing the social mirror that has been threaded in the Barbie complex and the suppression of expression through hair, as mainstream culture has rejected and demonized black women's beauties and bodies, leaving us with preconditioned whiteness as a standard of beauty. It is a form of social control, as we only see it through the narrow perspective. Black female bodies have been devalued or negated from the mainstream to the extent when seen it is often accepted only to be exoticized rather than measuring up to the normal standard of beauty. The best way to understand what mainstream beauty is from the definition given by Ingrid Banks in Hair Matters. Ideal beauty: blonde, pale-skinned, with blue eyes. Embodies everything that average black woman lacks. Black beauty seems to be always fitting within another's version of the other consumption, especially as Europeans frame the black female body as being harsh and aggressive. It can be argued that the absence of black images in the social mirror leaves the black child with little other than white subjects for self-reflection and self-projection. However, we must acknowledge that this cannot simply be reduced to wanting to be of another colour. The complexity of the social mirror is not just how society sees black women, but how black women view themselves in society. It is arguable that one can easily suppress one's blackness to reflect what mass media offers as a standard of beauty. These destructive issues of black beauty are evident within adverts such as Dove, which evoke stereotypes of black women not being the epitome of beauty standards, as the advert shows a woman transforming her body from being black to white, emphasizing that white beauty is the finished product. Black beauty is seen in the mainstream media when its hand has been forced, such as now, as brands have been outed for having only Caucasian models and feeds, such as on Instagram, and have now started to largely hire black women for the mainstream media, but we'll see how long this lasts. Analysing media infiltrations of beauty, one can see the need to re-educate specifically black women and their relationship to their hair, such as Barbie, an iconic figure in many young children's childhoods. In my generation, there were only Caucasian Barbies, whereas now there are Barbies of varied ethnicities, sizes, and hair textures, marking a great inclusive progression. But is this inclusive progression something that is active within the workforce, where microaggressions are felt on a daily basis from the touching of black people's hair and asking if that is someone's real hair? You paid for it, so it's yours, and not everything is a weave. These are questions that black women have to ask themselves on a daily basis for what people may ask them at their workplace. Should I take a holiday day to sit and get my hair done for 6+ hours? What will happen to my hair if I get caught in the rain? How shall I wear my hair for the interview? How many questions will I get at work when I change my hairstyle? Will my colleagues ask to touch my hair? Will my colleagues touch my hair without asking? Will they ask how my hair grew so quickly? Will they ask how long my real hair is? If hair could talk, stemmed from my hair being policed the whole time I was at school. From the colour, sometimes it would be mixed with black and grey, which was seen to be a false colour, and to having the addition of beads in my hair sometimes. But yet my white counterpart, who would have pink dip-dyed hair, would never be asked to change their hair. So once leaving school and starting uni, I felt relieved that I would no longer be restricted anymore. But there was an occasion where one of my tutors on my art foundation called me the wrong name. He excused it by saying, you change your hair more times than there are days in the week, which was both patronising and untrue. It got me thinking, how come I'm rarely questioned why I frequently change my hair? Why the style has always varied and never repeated in the past 4 years. And during this time, I subconsciously monitored the different reactions from people whilst changing my hairstyles. This was the beginning of If Hair Could Talk. It is based on the Black British experience, as many of the sources found were American sources. Our narrative as Black British females has always been pitched within the American women's experience as a whole, but not independently as a British. I called my project this, but also my TEDx talk this, as Regina George in Mean Girls once said about Gretchen Wiener's hair. The hair was so big because it was full of secrets. She was not mistaken, as traditionally the history of Africans was passed down by oral history, the passing down of words and stories. Our hair holds both memories and the stories of our ancestors. The past is intertwined with our present and future. I actively needed my project to record the stories and thoughts of Black women and their hair. I needed my project to hold the space of a gallery, which is often seen as predominantly a white space, in both artists that occupy it and share it with their work, and the viewers. I wanted to be unapologetic in the size, which is 5 meters wide by 2 meters high, and the poetry echoing through the speakers.
My hair is a microphone. It speaks volumes. A sight for sore eyes, my curls lie confused, lips pursed to form the funnel of a trumpet. And from them I utter sounds and syllables, rhymes and rhythmic blues, a tale of wisdom and truths, amplified by the coils of my roots. I care for the curls of my keratin with coconut cream cocktails, tea tree oil on the top shells, sheer buttered, steamed, circumcised in a silk veil. My scalp inscribed with majesty, the texture defying gravity, a land of undiscovered mysteries, the land of the unknown. I plough the fields of madness with my wooden afro comb. You could never comprehend the Afrocentric way, never come to terms with my tangled textured maze. It's my DNA. Intertwined ivy, substance seeping hyphae. To relax would be a tragedy.
My inspiration for my project was every Black girl that wanted straight hair, as I did when I was age 7 and I saw my classmate Caitlin skipping across the playground with her hair swinging from side to side. My inspiration is every Black girl who picks a white doll over a black doll, as they believe the black doll to be bad, ugly, and or possibly lesser than the white doll. My work was meant for those who resonated with the stories, to show that they were not alone in their thoughts of their hair and learning to reclaim its beauty. But also it was meant for those with a lack of understanding of Black women and their hair. I was met with many questions, and I encourage these questions because it took for these people to step back, reflect on their own actions and the actions of their groups, but also the media, because rarely do you see Black women with afros in adverts or Black women talking about their hair so openly. Today, my work continues to have activism within it, both in the design and the production of teams that are actively inclusive. I continuously work to create personal work that questions the mainstream ideals surrounding Black women, their beauty and their hair, with hair focus as one of the main structures within many of my pieces. I'm Jade Adeyemi, and thank you for listening.